Okay, hello everyone. My name is Laquan Williams, and in this video, I wanted to talk about the subject of the episode of The Legends of Tomorrow, DC Legends of Tomorrow, that airs on the CW TV network. The episode aired on Sunday a couple days ago, on the 20th of June, 2021. I wanted to talk about the episode and do my review on it. And so I'm currently on the AV Club's website. It's season 6, episode 6. So basically, what happened in short is the Legends of Tomorrow. The Legends obviously have gotten Sarah Lance back on the ship, and she's back with the crew. They finally were able to have her back. Gary and Mick Rory on the show were able to go to the planet where she was at, and obviously find her and finally help her break out and obviously leave and destroy the guy who was holding her there, which is the main bad guy who has been obviously the villain for the past about 5 episodes now, which is obviously Bishop. He was like a Disney villain. He was always singing and dancing. It was obviously kind of comic. It was pure comedy, obviously, because he's the bad guy slash villain. In space, he was a clone of himself, obviously. And every time Sarah Lance killed him, he was able to recreate another version of himself because he's essentially a clone. And he's obviously very smart. But basically, what has happened is they obviously got her back. The first 5 episodes, I guess you can say 6, because this obviously ended, and the sixth episode of the season has been obviously basically the first half of the season, or about a third of it, was Sarah Lance was obviously abducted by aliens in space, and Bishop was the guy who was in charge of that. We found out Gary obviously was an alien, and he didn't want to help, obviously, but whoever was in charge of him as his superior gave him no choice, so he had to do that. But he eventually obviously did help Sarah, so he wasn't he only did it to obviously save his own neck, but obviously to keep Sarah safe, but obviously himself safe. So in the end, it worked out. The team tried to go back in time, and obviously, like they usually do when things don't go right, and they try to figure out ways to fix them, even though they know going back in time screws up the space-time continuum itself. Time ripples effects obviously take place, and timelines are screwed up. So when they go back in time to change one thing, another terrible event happens, and somebody's erased from time, or some event that happened turns out bad instead of how it was obviously written in history, which was good, whether it's a war or some type of peace still going bad, or breaking out with obviously war breaking out, of course. And that's what happened. So they got her back. Bishop, I don't know if he's going to be gone. He was able to upload himself, kind of like how Ultron did in Age of Ultron and the Avengers. He was able to upload his consciousness into the internet, so he's able to jump into different obviously bodies of electronics and machines. And that's what obviously Bishop did. He was able to control the whole entire facility that he was at while he jumped into the computer and uploaded his consciousness there. He was also trying to make sure that he could upload his consciousness to the cloud, so through the internet he was able to use that to be able to jump into anybody, obviously, as far as robots and electronics goes, and possibly any device. Obviously, that's what obviously happened in the Avengers Age of Ultron, where Ultron did that, and the Avengers obviously took him down and defeated him, and that's basically what happened here. So they're back. Everybody pretty much knows that John Constantine unfortunately lost his magic, and because of this, John Constantine was obviously very much looking forward to changing the timeline with Sarah Lance as well, because he was trying to reverse his obviously depleted magic that he obviously has, so he would be able to get it back. But that obviously didn't work, and he's gonna try to figure out a way to get it back somehow. We don't know what's gonna happen with that, but we'll see. That's basically it on that, though. Yeah, they got Sarah back. We don't know what's going to happen with Bishop, with the rest of the, obviously the rest of the season. In next week's episode, season 6, episode 7, they're going back in time to the old Western days, the cowboy days, and David Ramsey, who plays John Diggle in Green Arrow, is going to be in the Arrowverse, is going to be on the show. I think he's appeared on the show maybe once or twice, and he's going to be on the show playing a cowboy of the past. So he's going to be on the show and making some type of appearance, obviously, and we'll see what happens with that. that was basically it. The Legends are trying to figure out different ways to get Sarah back and bring her out of, obviously, that specific timeline where she was getting abducted, but nothing that they try to do help. And even Nate, a different version of Nate from the future, came in to tell them that what they do obviously screws up time even worse than itself, and that they can't help Sarah. Obviously, they have to let it happen and her be obviously become abducted, or things were going to get worse. And that version of Nate wore John Constantine's shirt, and he had long hair, and he was playing the character. Obviously, it looked like Snake Plissken, obviously, played by actor Kurt Russell, if I'm not mistaken, who played Snake Plissken, a character in Escape from New York and Escape from Los Angeles in the late 80s and obviously early 90s, or early to mid 90s in two different movies. So we'll see what happens with that. That's basically it. The episode was okay. It was cool. It was I think that next week's episode seems a little more interesting. The dragging on of Sarah in space with Bishop continuing to sing and dance and say "you can't leave" and having his jingles and numbers. It's been really annoying for the past couple of weeks now. Even Damien Dark, even though him being the villain was brewed and very blunt and forth talking and straightforward with his obviously hatred for the Legends and whatnot, he was actually more interesting in his dark humor and comedy when he brought it out. Obviously, he didn't do it every time, but he was more blunt and more obviously straightforward with him being like violent and evil, because he's obviously a dark, obviously magician slash wizard, not wizard, but he's a dark arts sorcerer type of word deal. He knows obviously lots of magic and spells. He's very dangerous. He was more interesting, and even I'm going back to I think the first one was Damien Dark, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, not Damien Dark. Vandal Savage. He was way more. I would say top villain. Besides obviously Damien Dark, he would be second. That's all I could really think of. They've had some other ones, but I can't really think of them as far as bad. Probably Nora Dark. No, yeah, that's basically it. I didn't. Yeah. I can say that Bishop was not really an interesting villain. Like I said, and obviously for the past couple weeks, this has been the whole entire ordeal with obviously the Legends obviously having to find Sarah in space and figure out where she's at. So they're still continuing to, in the next week's episode, which is season 6, episode 7 in the West. They go back in time to the cowboy days, the Western days, Clint Eastwood days, and whatnot, and the cowboy days, obviously. And they're going to try to still hunt down some aliens that are obviously going to be there. I don't know how they're going to figure that out, but we'll see what happens. That's next week's episode. But like I said, it was okay, but like I said, next week's episode seems much more interesting. They're finally getting away from this tiresome storyline, because like I said, if it was going to drag on for a couple more episodes, yeah, I think it's just obviously it's way past its expiration date, basically. You know, Bishop's singing and dancing, saying, constantly giving Sarah jingles like "you're never gonna leave," singing always constantly "you can't win," and just obviously, singing obviously because that's what he is. He's like I said, he's like a Disney villain. He sings and he dances and he's like a very funny kid, evil genius. Like, I'll take over the world kind of ordeal, like Pinky and the Brain, but it was basically Brain. Pinky was the comedic one who was not very smart. Brain, obviously, he was a smart one because his name was Brain. That's basically what it was. It was just like that. He was obviously just annoying after a while. But basically, that's the end of it. We'll see what happens in the rest of the show throughout the rest of the season. I don't know how many more episodes there are going to be for the season, probably 16, 17. We don't know who's going to be the other villain on the show, or what's going to happen if they bring somebody back from the past, or what's going to happen with that. Obviously, who's going to be the next main bad guy / supervillain on the show, similar to what we have been seeing on The Flash, where the last couple episodes haven't brought us anything, but just showing us obviously what obviously the team having issues with Cisco leaving, and them obviously having to get used to it, and Chester obviously having to deal with him falling into taking Cisco's place. But we'll see what happens with that in The Flash, and obviously this other CW TV network show, which is the DC Legends of Tomorrow, and that's basically it. Last week's episode was okay. This one was a little bit better, but like I said, I'm looking forward to next week's episode, so I can finally move past this storyline. For the first 6 episodes of the season, it was just basically rescue Sarah and the team having back and forth arguments on how they can save her and whatnot. That's basically it. We'll see what happens with the rest of the show. Compared to last week's episode, I see last week's episode was about about a 7.5. This week's episode, I give it a 6.5. Sarah Lance has obviously found out she's been cloned. She was killed, so she's another version, a copy of herself, but she's died so many times that we're basically used to it now. So we'll see what happens with that. That's nothing new. They basically showed that out on the show. She tried to copy and clone herself at the end, but she couldn't decide if she wanted. She had to decide if she wanted to copy herself, make another clone, finish it, and have it be obviously developed. That version would go back to the ship with the rest of the legends, which is the copied clone version of her that she just made, and the current version of her, who knows that she has obviously already been dead, would stay on the planet, and the planet would obviously possibly blow up, and she would have to try to stop Bishop in some type of way. But she stopped cloning herself. They blew up the whole entire facility where Bishop's at. He's destroyed. I know what's going on. What's going to happen with the planet and the rest of the copied clone versions of Ava that they have there, because there's a bunch of them. But we'll see what happens with that, obviously. And obviously the alien that helped Mick Rory, and where she's going to go. Obviously, she's not going to be staying with the team. So we'll see what happens with that. Maybe she'll help them find out where those aliens are hiding in the Western, obviously, times in the Old West, where they're going back to next week. Which obviously, on the next week's episode, which is the past. And we'll see what happens with that, obviously. Because obviously the person that was helping Mick, she's an alien herself, but she can shift into a human form. Like, obviously Gary can. So we'll see what happens with that. That's basically the end of my video, and that's all I have to say about this review for DC Legends of Tomorrow's current episode, which was season 6, episode 6. Back to the finale, part 2, which was a kind of a take a little bit on Back to the Future part 2, where they tried to go back from what they did in the first movie from the past, from the future, and go from the past and go back to try to solve it. Obviously, that's basically what happened. That's it for my video. Thank you again for watching. That's all I have to say about this subject matter of DC Legends of Tomorrow's episode 6, season 6, episode 6 review. Thank you again. Goodbye. Thank you.